What happens when people you know just disappear? And the search leads somewhere truly horrifying.
Yeah, it's unsettling.
Today we're sharing a story based on a listener's submission, originally told on a Thai YouTube channel. It's about real events from, well, over 20 years ago now.
Happened in a rural area, right on the border between Ratchaburi and Samut Songkhram provinces in Thailand.
And it involves a group of friends, one of their older brothers, his new wife Dao, and their families.
Exactly. And this source gives us a really close look, a first-hand account of this whole mystery unfolding and the really disturbing things that followed.
So our plan is to walk you through this account piece by piece. We want to try and understand what happened, what it felt like for those involved.
Let's do it. Okay, so let's paint the picture. We're talking early 2000s, maybe 2000 to 2002. In Thailand, that's BE 2543 to 2545.
Right.
The person telling the story, Kun Chat, was like high school or vocational school age then, same as most of his friends.
And they had a usual hangout spot.
Yeah, this little wooden structure, kind of like a shed maybe. It belonged to their friend An.
Okay.
And this shed was important because it was located right next door to the house of An's older brother. This brother is called O in the story.
Got it. And O.
I was mid-20s maybe. He'd recently gotten married again to Dao. Dao was younger, closer in age to the friends actually. And she was from Samut Songkhram.
And the source mentioned something about his first marriage.
Yeah, apparently he divorced his first wife to marry Dao. Just giving some context.
So the friends, they knew a little bit.
Yeah, casually. He'd sometimes pop out and say hi when they were at the shed. Not close friends, but, a familiar face.
Okay. So how did the mystery even start?
Yeah, it started pretty quietly, actually. Dao's mother started showing up at O's house. She was looking for Dao and for O.
Just once?
No, that's the thing. She came back several times over a few days, repeatedly asking for them.
And what did she find each time?
The house just looked locked up tight, dark, seemingly empty.
Oh.
And the friends, they also noticed, and Dao's motorcycle wasn't there. It was gone.
Okay, so house locked, bike gone. That sounds like
they went away, right?
Yeah.
That was the immediate thought for everyone. The friends, probably Dee's mom at first too, maybe they took a trip to Bangkok or another province for a few days.
Didn't seem immediately suspicious, just they were out.
Exactly, just out.
But then, around the same time, something else started happening. Something odd.
Yeah, this is where things get a bit strange, even before they knew anything for sure. The dogs in the alleyway near O's house started howling at night.
Dog howling isn't that unusual, but the source describes it differently.
Very specifically. It wasn't just random barking. It was like sequential. One dog would start, then another down the alley, then another.
Like a chain reaction.
Exactly, a chain reaction of howling. But the really weird part, where it stopped.
Where?
It would always stop right at the area near An's shed and O's house. Like the howling wave just hit that spot and ended.
Wow. Like it reached whatever was causing it or couldn't pass it.
Something like that. And this peculiar, localized howling went on for about 2 nights.
That must have felt creepy, even if they didn't know why.
Definitely added this layer of unease, Something felt off.
Yeah.
Even if the rational explanation was still, they're on a trip.
That tension between the normal explanation and this weird animal behavior. Interesting.
Yeah, a growing feeling that maybe things weren't quite right.
Okay, so let's move forward a few days. It's an afternoon, around 2 p.m. The friends are back at An's shed.
Yep, just planning to hang out like usual. And their habit was parking their motorcycles under O's house.
Because it was raised? Like on stilts?
Yeah, a 2-story house, open ground floor underneath, common style. The kitchen was separate, also underneath, but sort of partitioned off.
Okay. And Kunchat, the narrator, needed something.
Yeah, he went to grab cigarettes from his bike, parked under the main part of O's house. And that's when he noticed something.
What?
Something dripping. From the wooden floorboards of the house above onto the concrete where he was standing, near his motorcycle.
Dripping? Like water. A leak.
No, that was the first odd thing. The source is very clear. It wasn't like water. It was described as viscous, thick, and a dark color, like a dark brown or muddy.
Viscous, thick, dark brown. Okay, that doesn't sound good at all.
No. His first reaction was, maybe dismiss it, but it kept dripping. So he looked up.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one spot. He saw a whole wet patch spread across the floorboards above him. A big patch. This wasn't some minor plumbing issue.
Definitely not. So he couldn't ignore that. What did he do?
He calls his friends over. Hey, look at this. And when they all saw it, the reaction was the same. unease. It just looked wrong, felt wrong.
This thick, dark stuff. Yeah, I can imagine. So what next?
Well, seeing that, they decided they needed to check the house upstairs. They were still mostly thinking O and Dao were away, but this is too weird.
So they went up to the door?
Yes. And that's when they found the key piece of information. The door wasn't locked from the outside.
Wait, not locked from the outside?
No, it was locked from the inside.
Oh, okay. That changes everything. If you go on a trip, you lock it from the outside.
Exactly. Locked from the inside means someone was inside. Or at least someone had been inside and locked it behind them.
Which completely contradicts the they're on a trip idea.
Completely.
Yeah.
And it suddenly made them rethink Dao's mother's visits.
Right.
Why didn't she get an answer if someone was inside?
Right.
They guessed maybe she knocked, nobody answered, so she just assumed it was empty and left. Didn't realize it was locked from within.
So now they know someone's likely inside, or was recently, but still silence.
Yeah. And while some of them were kind of processing this locked door thing, another friend did something else.
What?
He went to check out that separate kitchen area. The one also under the house, but distinct.
And he found something.
He found O's motorcycle, parked inside the kitchen.
Inside the kitchen. But you said they parked under the main house?
Exactly. According to Kun Chat, O never parked his bike in the kitchen. Never. Always under the main house with everyone else.
So finding the bike there...
That was it. That, plus the door locked from inside. They knew. Something was seriously, horribly wrong. That sense of unease just became outright fear.
I can only imagine. Okay, so what did they do then? They knew something was terribly wrong inside.
Well, shock turned into real worry. They started knocking, like really loudly on the door, calling out O's name again and again.
Any answer?
Nothing. Just dead silence from inside.
Oh, man. So they felt they had to get in.
Yeah, the worry and suspicion were just overwhelming at that point. They decided they had to force the door.
Was it difficult?
Took them about half an hour, the source says. Probably felt like forever, trying to break down that door, not knowing what they'd find.
And when it finally opened, what was the first thing?
The smell.
Yeah.
Immediate. Overpowering.
It's just horrific.
How did the source describe it?
Like really, really rotten salted fish, but incredibly strong. Just hit them like a wall.
Ugh. That's a specific and terrible smell. It was physically sickening. Kun Chat mentioned some of his friends literally ran back outside and were vomiting from the intensity of it. He felt close himself, had to step back downstairs for a moment.
Wow. So after the initial shock of the smell, what did they see inside?
It was dark inside. All the windows, doors, everything closed up tight. No lights on. Pitch black, basically.
Until someone found the switch.
Yeah, On managed to find the light switch and flicked it on.
And the light revealed.
It revealed O and Dao. They were there. On the sofa.
Oh, no. And their condition, the source was quite direct about it.
Yes, very direct.
Yeah.
Both bodies were bloated and swollen. Signs of decomposition having set in for some time.
And the liquid Kun Chat saw dripping.
That was. It was lymphatic fluid. It had seeped out from the bodies, pooled heavily on the sofa, and was dripping through the floorboards onto the concrete below.
Oh, God. So the dripping was from them.
Yes. A truly horrifying confirmation. The source also notes some specific grim details observed. Dao's body seemed to have marks around the neck, like ligature marks, suggesting she might have been strangled or squeezed.
Oh.
Nira's body apparently showed no obvious external signs of violence.
Were there other items found near them? Anything significant?
Yes. Nearby, they found a bottle of some kind of sweet drink, and right next to it, a bottle of herbicide.
Herbicide. Oh, wow.
And also, there was a letter, believed to be a suicide note, apparently written by O.
So faced with all of this, the smell, the bodies, the herbicide, the note after everything leading up to it, what was the friend's reaction?
Just profound shock.
Yeah.
Absolute horror. You know, seeing people they knew, their friends, like that, it's beyond anything they could have prepared for. A deeply traumatic discovery.
Unimaginable. So what happened right after that? They must have been reeling.
They were, but they acted fast. They immediately called the police.
Yeah.
And they also called Dao's family to tell them what they'd found.
Right. Get the authorities involved straight away.
Exactly. So the police arrived, started their investigation, secured the scene, and the local volunteer rescue teams came too.
The foundation staff?
Yeah, the ones who often help with body recovery in Thailand. They came to handle the bodies respectfully.
And based on the condition of the bodies, what did the authorities initially think about when they had died?
Well, the understanding among the friends, based on what the investigators were saying, was that O and Dao had probably been dead for several days already.
How many days, roughly?
The estimate floating around was about 3 to 4 days.
3 to 4 days. That lines up perfectly, doesn't it?
Eerily so. It matches when the motorcycle disappeared, when Dao's mother started looking for them, and maybe even when those dogs started that weird howling. It all just clicked into place horribly.
So the bodies were then taken for funerals?
Yes. O's family took him for rites at a local temple, and Dao's family received her body and took her for rites at a temple back near her hometown in Samut Songkhram.
Okay. And then, during O's funeral, things got strange again. The atmosphere shifted.
Yeah, that first night of O's funeral, everyone's gathered, friends, family, locals. Grief, obviously. But then, these odd stories started making the rounds among the attendees.
Stories about O.
About seeing O.
Yeah.
Recently,
Yeah.
like after they knew he had died. But the sightings seemed to relate to the days just before or around the time of death.
Wait, sightings after the discovery, but seemingly from before. How does that work?
Well, for example, one older friend said that just 2 days before the bodies were found, he saw O riding his motorcycle past his house. Multiple times.
Okay.
But the friend waved, called out, and O just rode past. Didn't acknowledge him at all, which was totally out of character for me. Ignored him completely.
Weird at the time, even weirder knowing what happened.
Exactly. And then some villagers chimed in, saying they'd seen O standing on a nearby bridge maybe 2 or 3 days before the discovery, just standing there alone. They called to him, but he didn't react, just stood still.
Motionless. Huh.
And remember the friend who lived at the end of the alley near O's place? Yeah, really chilling story. Said 2 days before the discovery, early evening, he heard O call his name, clear as day.
Oh, calling his name.
Yeah. So he looked out his window, and he saw O's back as he was walking away down the alley. He called out, "Oh, hey, O." But O didn't turn around, just kept walking.
Okay.
And later, after finding the bodies, this friend had this awful thought. Maybe O had been calling him for help. Like help with the bodies.
Oh, wow. That's a terrible thought to live with.
Yeah. And it wasn't just sightings, there were sounds too.
What kind of sounds?
Other friends, relatives, villagers living near the end of that alley. Around the time of the funeral, for about 2 or 3 nights, several people reported hearing a woman crying.
Crying? Where from?
Softly, they said. Coming from the garden area near the house, late at night.
A woman crying? Maybe Dao? Or just the tragedy echoing?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Just added to this really heavy, unsettling feeling around the place.
And Kunchat, the narrator, he had his own experiences too, right? Things that felt very real to him.
He did. Very personal. The night after helping out at the funeral, he was riding his motorcycle home. He had to go past O's house. It was near the end of the alley where he lived too. And all those stories were swirling in his head.
Yeah, I bet. What happened?
As he got near the house, he looked across the street from it and saw. Well, he saw over a dozen dogs, all barking like crazy.
Barking? At what?
That's the thing. They were barking intensely, ferociously, all focused on one spot across the street.
Yeah.
But when Kunchat looked really closely, there was nothing there.
Nothing, just empty space.
Just empty space. He said seeing those dogs react so violently to thin air just sent ice down his spine.
Yeah.
He got so scared he just gunned it home.
I don't blame him. Seeing animals react like that to something invisible, especially there, though.
Absolutely terrifying. And it didn't end there for him that night. He got home, was getting ready for bed, fan off, windows closed, room sealed up.
Okay.
And suddenly he felt this gust of wind on the back of his neck. Cold air.
Everything was closed. No fan.
Exactly. No logical explanation for it. Just this sudden cold breath or wind on his neck.
Yeah.
He said he was utterly terrified, started praying instantly, fumbled for the light switch, turned it off, and just dove under the covers.
Wow. That's intensely creepy. These experiences, the stories, it must have really changed how they felt about that area.
Completely. Kunchat says after the cremation, none of the friends wanted to hang out at On's shed anymore. They were just too scared.
The place felt tainted.
Yeah. Haunted by what happened, what they saw, what they heard, what they felt. They'd still ride past sometimes, but never stopped like before. Those images, that smell, it all stayed with them.
And did the strange stuff around the house stop then for other people?
Not immediately, apparently. More stories popped up later. Villagers walking by would claim they heard footsteps upstairs. You know, the sound of creaking floorboards when no one should be there.
Like someone walking around.
Yeah. And some even said they saw, like a shadow figure, sitting in a chair under the house in the open area.
Just sitting there. Okay. So the unease definitely lingered in the community. What happened with the house itself? Did someone deal with it?
Eventually, yes. Ola's father came back to clean the place up. On actually helped him, which must have been incredibly difficult.
I can't imagine, especially dealing with the remnants.
Right, and a big part of that was getting rid of the sofa and the mattress where the bodies had been found. They were soaked.
With the decomposition fluid.
Yeah. So they dragged them outside to burn them, get rid of them completely.
Burning them. Must have been quite a sight. Did anything unusual happen then?
Well, according to On and others who were there, yes, something very specific. As the sofa was burning, they saw a single, distinct stream of smoke rise up from the flames.
Okay. Smoke rises from fire.
But this stream didn't just dissipate. It drifted directly towards one of the windows of Ul's house. Like it was going back.
A single stream of smoke heading straight for the house window.
That's what they said they saw. And the people there, the locals watching, they had a strong interpretation. They believed it was O's spirit, still attached to the house, being drawn back even from the fire.
Wow. That's a powerful image and belief. So after that, did they try anything else? Like a blessing?
They did. O's father arranged for monks to come. They performed chanting rituals throughout the house and sprinkled holy water, a traditional cleansing ceremony to bring peace to the place and any lingering spirits.
Did it work? What happened after the monks came?
According to the source, yes. After that ritual, the strange things people had been reporting, the sightings, the sounds, the footsteps, the crying, they started to taper off.
They faded away.
Gradually, yes. And eventually they stopped altogether. The house fell silent again.
And what about the house now? Is it still empty?
No, the source says relatives from O's side of the family eventually moved in. It's occupied now.
And how is it perceived now with people living there?
Apparently it's not seen as scary anymore within the community. Having a family living there, everyday life happening again.
Yeah.
It seems to have dispelled that lingering fear and darkness.
Interesting how occupancy can change the feeling of a place like that. Did Kunchat offer any final thoughts on the whole thing? What stuck with him the most?
He did. He reflected that the whole experience was incredibly scary for him. But maybe not for the reasons you'd immediately think. It wasn't necessarily about ghosts in the traditional sense.
What was it then?
For him, the deepest horror, the thing that really shook him, was the act of seeing the actual bodies, the reality of death in that state.
The physical reality, not the supernatural possibility.
Exactly. He even mentioned having seen a deceased monk before who died peacefully, and while sad, it wasn't terrifying like this. This discovery, the shock, the condition of his friends' bodies, and especially that awful, unforgettable smell of the decomposition fluid.
Yeah.
That was the core of the terror for him, the gruesome reality of it all.
That's a really powerful point. Sometimes the most haunting things aren't spirits, but the brutal facts of life and death we're forced to confront.
Absolutely. So this whole story, it takes us from just a simple missing couple scenario through all those unsettling little clues, stacking up the dogs, the liquid, the lock, the bike, leading to that absolutely devastating discovery.
And then into that period afterwards where you see grief and trauma blending with these collective experiences, the sightings, the sounds, the smoke that the community clearly interpreted through a lens of something beyond the normal. It really shows how tragedy can happen behind closed doors and just stain a place, and the memories of everyone involved.
Yeah, it really highlights that thin line between the everyday and the truly disturbing, and how we try to make sense of things that are both horrifyingly real and yet seem to defy easy explanation. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. How places marked by such intense events might hold on to something, or maybe how collective trauma just manifests in ways we don't fully understand, creating these shared stories and feelings that linger.
It's definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us as we walk through this account.
Yeah, thank you for listening. We'll be back soon with another deep dive.